Alright guys, saw this video pop up on my feed. I have watched it before, but I wanted to share it with my following, you know what I mean? My audience. My following. What the fuck? It sounds insane, dude. Audience sounds insane. With the people who watch my channel. Wanted to share something with you guys. This is an artist named J. Paul. Amazing artist, you know what I mean? One of the few artists who I remember exactly where I was the first time I heard him, exactly what song it was. Let's check it out, dude.
You ever hear of J. Paul?
Yes.
Oh, damn. All right, hold up. So in 2010, 2011, this singer, songwriter, producer from London releases his demo track on MySpace. It's called BTS to You. I don't know what it means. Don't ask me. And at the time, this was some cutting edge stuff. It was dubstep and indie rock and R&B.
Dubstep. I wouldn't call it dubstep, brother.
Like all in one song. And it just...
Dubstep is some of the worst music ever put to MP3s. I would not call this dubstep, brother.
worked. He was taking a lot of elements from various scenes and putting them all into one accessible pop song. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
You really had to hear this thing in 2011 to get it. But it just sounded like this is what the future of music is going to sound like, you know? Anyways, it blows up and music blogs begin to write good things, gets called best new track and whatnot. UK radio stations start throwing it into rotation. Then record labels catch wind of his single and start a bidding war to sign this guy. He eventually signs to the same label as Adele, I think Vampire Weekend at the time, Radiohead. Like, things are happening for this kid. And as if that wasn't enough, Drake drops a track that samples his song.
I got car money, fresh start money, I want Saudi money, I want art money.
Beyonce drops a track that samples the song. Yeah, like, it was a huge deal for someone coming out of the indie scene. And not even a year later, Jay drops another demo called Jasmine.
This one's
And
crazy.
by now, people are calling this guy the second coming of Prince, like musically. There are artists that put out 5, 6, 7, 10 albums with no cultural impact, and then there's J. Paul who does it in 2 songs. These tracks went on to influence James Blake, Frank Ocean. I think Lord and Brockhampton have straight up said they were influenced by Jay. And after him, we started seeing a lot more R&B mixed with minimal electronics. He inspired an entire wave of underground artists. They literally called it J-Wave. But most of it was...
J-Wave, that's fucking egregious, bro. I will say, dude, first time I heard him, I was blown away, dude. I guess I knew that Drake sampled him for Dreams Money Can Buy because, I mean, we all remember that sample, Don't Fuck With Me, you know what I mean? But because at the time, you couldn't buy the album, spoiler alert, but you could find it. You know what I'm saying? So I found it and I listened to it in full. And dude, there were songs like the music sounded like music from the future. You know what I mean? From the future from this point still. You know what I mean? This is 10 years ago I found them and it still has the same effect on me, bro. And yeah, it influenced, like, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, I make J. Paul type beats." Because that's fucking weak. But like there are elements from his music that I ended up like implementing, you know what I mean? There's a lot, like he works yeah, he's just real creative with how things are laid out, the arrangement of things, the way he'd flip samples, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, you just got to listen to it. It's definitely worth... It's actually on iTunes now, which I'm pretty sure at the time of this video it was not on iTunes. He's also dropped some new music. He released the vinyl. That's how I got the vinyl, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, it's very interesting stuff.
the J. Paul sound minus the J. Paul mind, you know? Just, it wasn't the same. J song.
Right, bro. That's like a splice version of J. Paul.
Wave of underground artists. They literally called it J-Wave. But most of it was the J. Paul sound minus the J. Paul mind, just
That is horrible, bro. What the fuck? That sounds like some AI bullshit.
minimal electronics. He inspired an entire wave of underground artists. They literally called it J-Wave. But most of it was the J. Paul sound minus the J. Paul mind.
Look, bro, for someone who's like listened to that album like 1,000 times, this sounds like he mashed up like 4 of the 13 songs off the project, or however many songs. It sounds like he took 4 of them and just mashed them together. Literally took the sounds. This is fucking horrific, bro. Ben Khan, dude, go fuck yourself, bro. This is some dog shit.
Just it wasn't the same.
Oh my god, yeah.
Jay's songs are bursting with creativity and passion and just an insane amount of attention to detail. Like, no idea where he comes up with the sonic choices he makes. Anyways, what was I saying? He's making some pretty big waves in the industry at this point, and people still don't know a thing about him. All we knew is that he was working on his debut album, and I think he produced a song for Big Boy, one of the guys from Outkast, and then things just went quiet for a bit.
Not one of the guys from Outkast, bro. Don't do that. Not one of the guys from Outkast. It's Big Boy.
Then bam, April 2013, his album goes up on Bandcamp, but with no name and everything's untitled. The internet hears Jasmine and BTSTU and figures out that this is J. Paul's music, like this is the album. And
Okay, yeah. So the album on iTunes is called 4/13/2013 Leak, because that's when it was leaked. He did not release this. You know what I mean?
they're linking everyone over to it because hype, like the thing's finally here. Everyone thinks it's a surprise drop because there was no publicity or anything leading up to it. But it's weird because there was a ton of anticipation for his album, and unexpectedly dropping it on a Saturday night just didn't make sense. His label starts denying the release, pretty much saying they didn't authorize this thing to go on sale, much less for it to be released. So what happened? The guy's laptop got stolen. Yeah, and whoever had it uploaded his unfinished album online. People started thinking it was just a marketing plan and that Jay uploaded it himself, but I don't know. Why would the label or him upload an unfinished album? Like, the mixing on some tracks were garbage. It just wasn't the polished sound we came to expect from the guy. And what's hilarious...
Well, to be fair, I'm not sure the sound was ever polished, you know what I mean? Even, a lot of it had, elements of, lo-fi, you know what I mean? This is, the ultimate lo-fi artist, And maybe it's because it was unmixed, unmastered, unfinished, right? But, yeah, I feel like even on the finished song... the finished songs, the mixing choices on that were, it wasn't trying to, I feel like he maybe purposely left ambiguity to a lot of things. That's why, he left it up to your interpretation. That's why, pretty much all his songs, you don't understand any of his fucking lyrics. You don't understand his vocals unless you've listened a few times. But, the first time you hear it, it's it sounds muffled almost, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's a purposeful choice, you know what I mean? I never saw his music as, polished, you know what I mean?
Though, is that despite it being unfinished, this album has been critically acclaimed and hyped up to legendary levels. It made end-of-year lists. It was like Justin Timberlake, Justice, and James Blake had an experimental electronic R&B baby. It was absolutely insane stuff when you think about the contemporary R&B that was coming out at the time. You had The Dream, Neo, Lloyd were dropping pretty good but stagnated R&B. It was just really refreshing to hear something somewhat experimental yet accessible. Again, it was pretty rough and the mixing was crap, but the beats and the production on this thing were so forward-thinking, and just the ideas he had going on this album were creative enough for people to be blown away. And that rawness...
I feel like the mixing wasn't necessarily crap. Like I said, I feel like that was a choice because, even in the new music, I forget what the songs are called. Hey or He. That shit isn't a perfectly clean mix. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah.
It's only added to the project. The blaring synths, the crunchy drums, the compressed audio, it all feels so dramatic and colorful while still being stripped back. The vocals are smooth, they hit the right emotional beats. The whole thing wears its flaws so well, and it just makes me think he was constantly tinkering away with his music. You gotta listen to some of this stuff on headphones. Even unfinished, his tracks are just painstakingly crafted. People were dying for this guy's debut album, and in 2013, they got it. It's just unfortunate that it was an early leak of demos. Some tracks were probably never even meant to be heard. Pretty much all of his work from 2007 to 2013 was leaked. It's got to be crushing to have 6 years of your creative work unwillingly released to the world when it's not where you want it to be. It sucks. He was robbed of his stardom. All at once, he failed to arrive in the industry and made a legacy. And J. Paul...
Yo, my guy was on that Kanye shit early, though. Look at that.
...was his worst critic. Despite all the praise, he hated that his music was being heard. The songs were dead to him now, and he'd never bring himself to finish the album. The whole...
Yeah, that actually really fucking sucks, because it, like, feel like it killed his morale, dude. You know what I mean? Because I guess someone stole his laptop and just leaked all the shit. I'd be so fucked up, dude. I'd be so fucked up.
The whole thing threw him into depression, and he pretty much went underground. That was until a few days ago.
Okay. So this video came out right when he was doing this shit.
It's been another 6 years, and he just put out 2 new songs. Then officially released the leaked material from 2013. He still hasn't finished the songs, but he made a few minor changes and the mixing is much cleaner. I think this was his way of reclaiming what was stolen from him. It seems like he's finally embracing those tracks. And
yeah, that's true. There's like some songs where there's like multiple versions to them. Like Jasmine, I think I've heard maybe 3 different versions of. BTSTU, I've heard at least 2, you know. And yeah, when I was going to listen to the album on iTunes or wherever, I think overall, yeah, the mix was pretty different from what I was used to hearing.
Putting an end to an era so he can move forward. He's ending the conversation so he can start a new one. I'm just happy I can listen to it on Spotify now. True. So now I'm just waiting for whatever Paul has up his sleeve. That 2013 leak is one of my favorite albums of the decade. Like, I haven't stopped listening to the leak since it leaked. It's my holy grail of music. A compilation that feels more than a project, but a key moment in indie music history. And much like his 0413 leak, J. Paul's story isn't finished.
Bro, like, I even went and found the song they're playing in the background of this intro, bro. And I hope he plays the song that drops after this intro, because that's like straight out of Mumbai, bro. Please go listen to Straight Outta Mumbai, dude. If you have never heard anything by this guy, Straight Outta Mumbai, BTSTU, Jasmine. And then you can go and listen to all the other shit, because it's all just as good. You know what I mean? The whole album, dude, you can listen to front to back. And yeah, in my opinion, it's the most creative like version of pop music that you can find, dude. For sure. J. Paul.
You see the It Chapter 2 trailer? Right? You know Stephen King wrote that book like on cocaine? There was a good period of time in his life where he was sober.
Yeah, dude. Stephen King used to go hard as fuck, dude. And there's a story where like he's waking up and his wife is cleaning up beer bottles in his writing room, and it's like trash bags full, tons of bottles. And he's like, man, I must have had a crazy week or month or whatever the fuck. And she's like, this is from last night, dude. You know, like, this dude was getting fucked up, dude.
For maybe 3 hours out of his day. The guy doesn't even remember writing it. Apparently the book is even more out there than the movie. You ever read it?
No.
Yeah, I know. It's long. You should try the audiobook version. There's no better place to start listening than Audible. You can get the audiobook for free
Fucking
when you head to
asshole,
audible.com.
dude. Are you fucking
And check this out.
kidding me?
Are on the more. Hundreds of delivered one title originals, middle eight. Subscribe to hear more.
I thought this dude was doing a tie-in. No. Wow. Anyway, yeah, dude, go check out J. Paul. He's fucking fantastic, guys. If you like weird music, that's still pretty good. You know what? Like, one of the best things, one of the only things I can compare it to, MGMT Electric Feel, right? He is like that song, but like all his songs are like that song, you know what I mean? Not like it, but like the same feeling you get from it being like some out there creative shit, you know what I mean? That like is undeniable. That's how I would describe his, you know what I mean? Like, you could put that song on a playlist with the rest of his shit, and truthfully, like, some of those songs that he's got on there should be as big and as recognizable as Electric Feel, but you know, whatever. Oh, and also, you know what's hilarious? Even Drake jumped on this shit, dude. He's been, yeah, whatever, dude. We hate Drake on this channel. Not really hate him, you know what I mean? But he's kind of a freak. Anyway, thanks for watching. If this is your first time on my channel, give me a like and a sub, or a dislike, you know, if you don't like me. It is what it is. But whether you like or dislike, go check out J. Paul, man. One of the greatest musicians of our time, dude.